If you're in midlife and wondering where the hell your desire went or how to get it back and make it hotter than ever, you just found your show. I am Dr. Stacy, clinical sexologist and certified sex coach, and this is the Purple Passion Project, the intimacy and sex podcast for midlife and beyond. Just real spicy conversations about desire, intimacy, and pleasure that will change the way you think about your sex life forever. Let's do it. Hey, I'm Dr. Stacy, and this episode is brought to you by not one, but two of my pleasure playbooks. One of them is called The Pleasure Comeback, and the other is Reigniting Passion in a Long-Term Relationship. So if your body's been feeling like a stranger lately, which many of us feel that way, or maybe the spark between you and your partner got a little dim, these two step-by-step guides that I wrote, they were written for exactly this season in life, from women that are navigating menopause and for men who want to understand what the heck their partner is going through, or it's even for couples who are ready to stop guessing about what's going on in their life and start reconnecting. Like I mentioned, they are step-by-step, they're shame-free, they are very practical. You can get using them right away after download, and you can grab them both at drstacyfriedman.com under the shop link. And you can also find the link in the show notes. And speaking of reigniting, that exactly is what we're going to talk to today. So welcome to the Purple Passion Project, where we talk sex, intimacy, and all the deliciously naughty things you've been thinking about, but no one gave you permission to say out loud. And midlife is not when your sex life slows down. It is when it gets hotter than ever. So buckle up, because today I have someone in the studio who is doing the kind of work that makes me want to stand up and clap. We got Karen Bigman, who is a certified sexuality educator and sex menopause coach. And she's also the host of the podcast Taboo to Truth, Life and Sex After 50, which I was also on. And she also is on a mission to help men and women thrive in this midlife and helping me say these things out loud. So Karen, thank you so much and welcome to the Purple Passion Project.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. Purple and pink together.
Absolutely. We got the purple and pink thing going. Some people can't see us, but you should be able to see us. So go watch it on YouTube so you can watch us with the purple and pink. She's all pink, I'm all purple. So anyway, so thanks for being here. And I wanted to kind of bring up a little bit of something that's not talked about very often. And we talk a lot about women and menopause, but we don't talk a lot about the men in that menopause storm of life. So what have you found in your practice, some of the biggest issues that men face when their partner is going through the menopause, especially in long-term relationships?
When I meet a guy who's either his wife has been through it, or he is they're in the throes of it, if you will, it's like, I just stay away. I don't get it. I just stay away, you know. I only once heard, it was like music to my ears, I heard a guy say, "We're in menopause." And to me, that felt like a very partnered experience. Wow. That was one unique guy saying it. For the most part, it's, "Let me know when it's over, honey. You're just not the same person."
Yeah. And the thing that's sad is that, like you said, we are in menopause because we're both dealing with things. Not just the woman with hormones, but for men, they're dealing with trying to, first of all, deal with the woman with hormones. And they have the andropause, and they do their own they have their own issues with decreasing of testosterone. It just may not show the same way, but it definitely affects people as a couple, especially in long-term relationships. So why do you feel, you know, with talking with all the men, why do you feel it's so difficult for the men to cope with all this stuff?
Well, men aren't used to, I think certainly in long-term relationships, and I would say to a certain extent generationally, there's certain roles that the women have played, and they've taken care of a lot, and the men have, you know, had their role. And I'm not saying this is true in every single relationship, but in general, and all of a sudden that is shifting for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of external stressors, there's the physical stressors, so things are all, there's a lot happening all at the same time. And men typically tend to repress.
Yeah.
They tend not to talk, say, I know with my, wasn't the only reason my marriage disintegrated, but big part of it was there was a lot of passive aggressive behavior from my ex-husband. He never said what it was. And, I probably wasn't much better in my own way. It was just, he should know, she should know, or I just don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. And I think that's really where the breakdown starts. Instead of kind of figuring out what the right way to do things, we often just say, look, it's easier not to do anything. And I think that's a very typically male avoidant response.
Yeah, I think that, a lot of men, what I've found is they take it personally as well. And they're like, my partner doesn't want me. I'm starting to feel less than, I'm not feeling attractive or desired. So because we repress it, because we don't have a space to talk about it, it is so important to be able to go to somebody like you or I to be able to say, this is what we're going through together. How do we navigate it? How do we talk about it? How do we understand each other? Because a lot of times they will take it personally. And I try to share with them, what's going on, but it still doesn't help. What do you think that a man actually needs to help understand about what his partner's body is going through?
So I think the first thing, which is something that I think the research didn't even really indicate this until very recently, is that menopause is not just the shutting down of your reproductive ability.
Right.
Estrogen, which is estrogen and progesterone and testosterone, which are the three hormones that start to decrease. When estrogen decreases, it affects not only your ability to menstruate or have children again, it affects every system in your body. From your digestion, your joints, your skin,
brain,
your ears, your brain, everything. Your sleep is disrupted. Like every system in your body is affected by estrogen. And I think that's something that once you at least sort of say, like, this is what's real. It's not that just she's going off the rails because she's menopausal. Not only is her, is she losing the ability to reproduce, which for some women is a grieving process, but she's also has every system in her body that is changing. And, oh, by the way, this is not like what happens with men where testosterone goes down gradually. This is like,
we're like all over the place. We're to the right, to the left, upside down, spinning around.
Exactly. And so at least putting that in perspective, like this, maybe it is you. But
right. True. Maybe you are being a bitch, but still.
Right. Maybe there's something to understand. But let's figure out what's going on biologically. And then you may be having that same issue. I learned testosterone, which, by the way, for the audience, is not a male hormone. It is a human hormone. Men just have more of it, and women actually have more when they're younger, but it converts to estrogen. So testosterone decrease in men can also have very similar symptoms as that menopause has in women.
Right.
So,
and that's kind of what I was talking about, the andropause and just their bodies changing. And then between everybody changing, especially if we're with someone of similar age and it's midlife, we're wondering, I can't tell you how many times I sit here, I'm having a conversation. I'm like, what is the word? What is it? Broccoli, or whatever. I'm like, you forget stupid little words. And I'm like, menopause brain. It's real. And if we can understand each other and say that, this is what we're dealing with, let's have a conversation. That's one of the reasons why I actually wrote that pleasure playbook, the pleasure comeback, because it helps women, especially if they're trying to reclaim desire and understanding their bodies. But it also helps the men kind of say, oh, I didn't realize that she's going through this. And a lot of women don't realize what they're going through either. And so it's so important to at least have those conversations. But you said you have a course, right? That's called Men Meet Menopause.
I actually renamed it because I think that Men Meet Menopause probably was one of those things like, I don't fucking want to meet menopause.
So what is the new name?
It's the men's handbook to dealing with menopause, something like that. But it's a handbook, and it really is. And in it, so I talk about what's physically going on, but what I also talk about, and I think, you brought up how, having the conversations, it's also how you have the conversation.
True.
Which is really because we never have sex anymore. Yeah, may be true, but that's a recipe for like, and if you think I'm going to have sex with you again,
after you just yelled at me.
So it's really how to have the conversations. I even have prompts in there and little exercises and things. It's kind of getting to know this new person. And now she may be the same person and that goes through a transition and then kind of comes back, or she may change in a lot of ways, but she's also, they say women after menopause are having the best sex of their lives. Well, I can attest to that because I'm postmenopausal. Yep. So there can be a really trying time, but it can also be a really wonderful experience when you come out the other side. It's just that in between.
Yeah. No, and I love how you say that. It's about how you say it, because I always try to tell people when the men call me privately for, let's say, consults, and they're like, I can't get my wife to have sex. I said to her the other day that we're not having enough sex and I go, no, stop, don't say anymore. Don't just say we're not having enough sex. Let your partner know you miss the connection, you miss the intimacy, you miss the playfulness. Those are things that you're going to respond to, because if someone is already dealing with all the menopause and things about life and the confusion and the body image things, when they hear it's all about sex, they're going to be like, forget it. I have no interest. But when you come from a place of, I just miss you, I want to connect with you, I want to just, even if you really do just want to have sex, tell her that you want to cuddle, you want to snuggle. It can be so much. And I just remember one time when my husband and I were making out in the morning, and we're like, ooh, wait for later. And then we're like, yeah. And then later came, I completely forgot about it. It was a long fucking day. And we go to lay down and he starts making out. And I'm just like, oh shit, I said I was going to have sex tonight. I'm like, oh my God, I am so not in the mood. And then I was ready to say, oh gosh, can we just not, and then I said, what would Dr. Stacy say to her clients? So I was just like, okay, I'm going to tell myself, let's just cuddle, let's kiss, let's try to just relax. I did that. And then within like 5 minutes, I was like, all right, take your pants off. And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, I'm ready. He's like, I thought you weren't wanting to do anything. And I'm like, no, I'm good now, because I allowed myself to get to that place of relaxation, of calm, being aroused, things like that. So sometimes you just have to have that time, right?
You also bring up responsive desire. So that's another thing that I think, that happens in relationships in general. And in menopause, it's even harder because there are a lot of other factors going on physiologically. But it often takes women a long time to even get to that place. And it's reminding, by making out with your husband, you were starting to remember what it felt like to be horny again.
Yeah.
Whereas before, all you thought about was, God, if I can get through this night with a full night's sleep, I'll feel so much better, right? But then, you start to get a little, things start to tingle a little bit, and then it starts to feel better. And so also understanding for the male partner to understand that this is something that men tend to be more visual. It tends to take them a lot less time to get aroused, and understanding that it takes a woman a long time. And oh, by the way, things are going to be a little different now because we're going to maybe need some vibrators, and we're definitely going to need lube. And it's your friend and it's not your competition, but it's something that makes things better, and just sort of being more open-minded and compassionate.
Absolutely.
Toward your partner, and as opposed to confrontational, because that just escalates.
Well, speaking of lube, I do have to pause for a second and tell you about something that I found, which is literally non-negotiable in my world. And I am talking about it on the podcast because it is that good. And they're called the Pleasure Pods. And it's right here. And it comes with this little tiny case. And what is so amazing is that, first of all, they are solid little plant-based pods, and they melt in your hands with the body heat. And so what we usually do is we start off with a massage. And so when your partner's going like this and it's warm and you're putting it on your body, it gets things going. And what's nice is that, first of all, game changer, when that massage goes between those legs and you just go a little bit like this with the pod, especially when you're navigating dryness during menopause, when you have something like this that works, there's no drippiness, no sticky mess, no chemicals. It's just natural plant butters, and it's incredible on the skin. And it's really, really good for that dryness. And guys, this is also really good for you. So when you learn how to use your hands to get your partner warmed up and comfortable, so many women don't like things so fast. So this has to go a little slower so it melts a little bit. And that is where that turn on is. So you can grab them. I'll have a link in the bio in the show notes. You'll use code Stacy and you get 15% off, and you let your hands do the talking. So really, really good stuff. I wanted to talk about a little bit about sexless bedrooms, because at this stage of life, so many people, I don't know about you, but I'm sure you have a lot of people coming to you saying that they're just not having sex.
Yeah. And that seems to be the biggest complaint, to the point that I'm actually starting a program that is going to begin with talking to guys who are going through that, because it's such a huge issue. And it leads to either complete disconnect or ultimately sometimes divorce or infidelity. Yeah. So it definitely is a huge deal. And it can be for many reasons, but of course the physiological changes are part of it. And then there's several factors. I have a framework that I call the midlife desire shift, and the physiology is one part. The communication is another big part. What the sex is like, how you define sex is part of it. And then I'm totally blanking on the fourth one. But anyway, there's three. But
you need to follow her in order to get that fourth one. Good one, Karen.
My brain, yeah, mine's post-menopause. Anyways, so and it's like, how is the sex that you're having, and is it something that I want to go do again with you? So what often happens is it's usually not like this sudden, I don't want to have sex with you anymore. Right. It tends to be a gradual. Yeah. And it's like all of a sudden, before you know it, it's been months, years that you haven't been intimate. And maybe you run into somebody that turns you on, and you start to remember it. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, we used to have that at some point. And now I really miss it.
Something triggers that. I'm missing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's a huge issue. We talk about the orgasm gap, which is how long it takes a woman to orgasm versus a man. But the as my girlfriend Maria Sophocles calls it, the bedroom gap, I think is, a bigger issue that needs to be addressed. And it's very much a communication. Like, how's your relationship? How are you showing up for intimacy? I have something I call sex snacks, where I say, like, if you haven't had sex in months, years, and you just show up and say, honey, like, let's get naked and go fuck. Can I swear?
Absolutely.
Okay. Unless that's
her on my podcast.
Unless that's her turn on, which for some people it is, chances are she's going to look at you like you've got, 3 heads. Really it's trying to come back into some form of intimacy where you actually take sex as you know it, intercourse, getting naked, whatever, off the table, just to rebuild the connection. Because when you haven't had any kind of intimate connection with your partner for so long, it's going to be very hard to get back into it.
Well, that's what I see a lot in my practice, is I'm getting people who are barely in the affectionate stage, where they're barely hugging and kissing, but yet they're having sex once or twice a week, and they wonder why it's not rewarding. They're doing it, and the partner is wanting to, which there's not sexless, but it's still emotionless, because they're doing it out of obligation. They're doing it because, I have to make sure that my partner's happy, but yet there's nothing through the day, nothing, no text, no playfulness, no flirting, no kissing, none of that. And then they wonder why their sex life is not that great. And it's like, because you're missing all of those, like you said, little snacks. And if you can take it off the table for a little while, the snack sounds like that it helps build anticipation. It helps build, because that's what you do at the beginning when you're meeting someone. You're not always, some people jump right into the sack. I know I've done that many times before, but it's about that buildup.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's about, certainly in long-term relationships, it's also about the connection. The physical is really important, and it's fun, and having an orgasm feels great. But it's also, when you are in that kind of position with somebody, it's like one of the most intimate things we can do. And so really just, I love, and I think this is a tantric practice, and I haven't studied tantra yet. It's on my list, but just even looking at just staring at each other, or just
Yeah.
touching lips without even doing anything else. Like, I find that like so hot when I do that with a guy. It's like the most intimate, because you're getting your energies to exchange. I mean, if you haven't been near each other,
I'm like, stop, Karen.
God, we're too far apart.
Well, I'm telling you though, that's the thing, is that there's many times where my husband will come in to go kiss me, and then I'll go to kiss him and he'll back up just enough where I'm like, wait a second, you just took that away. And you have that like energy back and forth. So you go close enough sometimes just to feel that energetic pull. And then you pull back just a little and you just leave. It's like you leave your partner wanting. That could be hot as hell. And yes, that's kind of like a tantric practice. But those are some of the things that we need to help build some of that excitement.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like the couple you were talking about have forgotten to kiss.
Yeah.
You know, I quote you all the time now, the lip nips
below the hips.
Yeah. And it's like on every part, I'm like, my friend Dr. Stacy says, I mean, that's really what it is. And the lips are like, okay, let me get down there. And I just started dating someone new, and that's his script. And I'm like, whoa, slow down, buddy. We forgot something up here.
Exactly. So I wanted to ask you what your opinion was, because we're talking about sexless marriages and how to kind of get back. Do you have a specific path that you walk your clients through when they come to you in these types of situations? How to get started again when they do have a sexless marriage?
I think you first have to diagnose the problem.
Yeah.
What
Talk
really
about
is the issue? Yeah. I mean, so I always say, that's the physiological, like what's going on with both of you. And again, none of this is in isolation. How are you communicating that you want to get intimate with your partner? How are you just saying, hey baby, let's have sex?
Are we having sex tonight?
Or are you just showing up, in bed naked and hoping that she'll roll over or he'll roll over, and then it's how's the relationship? How are you showing up for each other? I just heard like this really interesting podcast, and it really hit home, because it's very much how I show up in intimacy. And it was this guy who went to this retreat and learned, they did an exercise where the man was holding the woman just from behind like this, and how he just held her there, like didn't let her go for like 15 minutes. And eventually she just kind of leaned into it and relaxed and started to actually, feel pleasure. And I think it's super important. And I'm sure this is true for men too, but I think for women more so, just feeling safe and comfortable in the relationship. And safety doesn't necessarily mean like you may never be physically harming your that may not be. Safety just also means, are you there for me? I mean, I was in a marriage where I did not feel like my partner showed up for me. I felt like, and it wasn't an overt, but it was like nobody had my back. And to me, knowing that knowing that we are solid, and whatever that means to you is super important. And I just think like that is a starting point too. So you've got the physical, you've got the, how is the relationship? Do you need to start going to a Dr. Stacy or a sex therapist or somebody to help you communicate better so that you can be showing up for each other? And then it's how you actually say things. What are you saying? How are you saying it? Practicing being able to say it. Start doing exercises, whether it's the sex snacks. I say, have some not sex, lie in bed next to each other and don't say no. I mean, don't just where intimacy is not going to happen, and it's going to want to happen much more when you can't do it.
Right. And it's okay if it doesn't, but the whole idea of the safety, like when I say to people, what is one of the most important things in a relationship? Right away, people are like, communication. And I said, well, not exactly. Because in order to be able to communicate properly, you need safety.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel safe, your communication is not going to be right. And I can tell that just from a lot of the social media posts that I've been doing lately. A lot of people are like, well, I can't tell my partner about my fantasy. I said, well, then you're missing the safety. That's why you're not having the sex you want. That's when you need to look at your relationship and say, why can I not tell my partner, my life partner, what I need? There's something more than just communication, safety.
And I just remembered my fourth pillar, which is pleasure over performance.
There you go.
Because you need to know that you're physically healthy, that you're
Yeah.
emotionally connected, that you're communicating properly, and then you can start to explore new ways to have pleasure with each other. So yeah, that's then you can start to talk about your fantasies. Then you can start to introduce new practices. Then maybe you try doing something even more extreme. Maybe you bring in kinky practices. Maybe you try tantric sex. Maybe you go to a sex party. Maybe you try something, or observe another couple, like whatever it is that you can then start this new phase of your relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Esther Perel. She says you can be married to the same person and have many different relationships. And that's really, can you create a new relationship with this person? And sometimes you can't.
Yeah, no, sometimes you can't. And that's why a lot of people get divorced, or they go outside of their marriage, or, they just sit there unhappy in the relationship. So I wanted to just tell the viewer something real quick that I'm totally obsessed with, and that's my community called the Vibe Tribe. And so if you've been listening and saying, oh gosh, that's me, this sounds like my relationship, there are people inside the Vibe Tribe. It's an online community saying the exact same thing. It's all about midlife. There's equal parts fun, naughty educational, and also the kind of connection that you didn't know you were missing from other people that are showing up exactly like you. And I am personally showing up there with live sessions. I have courses. We have conversations that will make you laugh, make you think, and make you wonder why you weren't in there sooner. So if you go to my website, drstacyfriedman.com, and you click on the Vibe Tribe, you get 1 week to try it for free, but make sure you join in the men's or the women's upgraded section. So that way you could see what everything is about, and you could always downgrade or cancel if you think you will, but I don't think you will. You'll find your people, and it's a lot of fun. So definitely check that out. But I wanted to talk a little bit about sex after 50 and what some women want, because a lot of times at this age, there might be more divorces. There might be more unfortunate deaths when you start getting to your 50s, 60s, and things like that. And so a lot more women are finding themselves dating in this stage. What kind of things do you find that a lot of women are looking for when they are dating in their 50s or older? What's different than what they're looking for in their 30s, besides stability?
Yeah, well, that's a start. Financial stability. Been down that road, unfortunately. In my last relationship, there was none. So I think we want to know the biggest red flag, or there's a lot of red flags, but one of the top red flags that I see, that I experience, I've been single on and off for the last now 11, 12 years, is that you haven't processed your previous relationship. And that goes for women and men. I don't think that's exclusive, but there's a lot of, railing on your ex, or talking about your ex, or complaining about your divorce, or whatever it is. I mean, that's like a huge
bye-bye.
Yep. Process your trauma, process your pain. I dated this guy. I went on like 2 or 3 dates with him, and it was clear that he had been in 2 different abusive relationships, and he brought me flowers on the first date, and he was whining and dining me. He's British, which I love the accent and everything. And he was really, really, really trying. And I was just like, I gotta say, like, you need to take care of this. You need to go to a coach, go to a therapist, whatever it is, but you need to process these, or you're never going to be able to have another healthy relationship. Fast forward a month, he calls me up. He says, I'm ready. I went to therapy. So know that this is not something that's going to happen in 1 month.
So he went one time and was like, yes, I did it.
I'm done. I'm good. Which is very male. It really is. I mean, sometimes we all want a pill to fix it, but it's something, grief is hard. The loss, even if it was your choice to have, maybe you were the one that cheated, or maybe you left and you realized, or
you don't want to have to think of the shit, but you do. You have to.
You have to process it. So that's a huge thing. The other thing that I have to teach guys is to ask questions. Yeah. We see it shows up in the apps right away, where it's like, hey, how are you? How was your day? No, ask me, learn. We want to learn about each other. Yeah. And then I'll go on a date, and it's a me, and me. And then I'll be like, oh, don't you know anything but me? Yes. And oh, me. I'm like, okay. I think there's a little bit of nerves, because you may have been out of the dating for a long time. And there's also just like, the point of dating is to get to know each other. I mean, if you want to hook up, great. I also say that's something I recommend when you get out of a long relationship is like, fuck around, go have
play the field.
Play the field safely. Make sure that you are clear. You're working, doing your STI testing, and you're practicing safe practices. But once that's out of the way, go and have some fun, because you don't even know what you like. If you've been with the same person since you were in your 20s, some people even teenagers, how can you possibly know what you're looking for in a relationship?
Well, I always tell people when they go dating, when they ask me like for dating coaching, I'll say to them, when you go out, don't expect every person, because like, I can't find anybody. I can't find anybody. I can't find anybody. I said, because you're going into each situation looking, rather than go into each situation and learn. Being curious. Exactly. Yeah. Learn what you want from the person and say, you know what, that's a great quality. That's something I'm going to look for. So when you take it away of that pressure, because you were talking about, pleasure versus performance, you take away that pressure of, well, I'm doing this because this person could be the one. Stop looking at that. Just look at what that person is offering and think if it's a quality that you want.
Right.
Don't be so worried about, I hope this person likes me. No, you want to make sure that person fits into your life for what you need, and just go in and be curious.
Right. Instead of that checklist of, yes, you're physically, you want to be attracted to somebody, but it's what are your values? What's important to you? What do you want in a relationship? And do you want a relationship? Some people don't want a relationship. Do you want to, do you want to be able to
ready?
Or they're not ready, or they want they want to try something different. They want to do an open relationship. They want to go become more kinky, whatever it is. And sometimes it can actually work in a relationship. I just met a guy who has been married for, 28, 30 years, something like that, to the same woman. And they got to a point, they don't have kids, and his wife wanted to try having sex with women, and she now has a female partner, and I think he's more kinky than her, and he's like having kinky experiences, and it's working for them as a couple. But if you're newly single, like maybe that's something you want to check out. I mean, there's apps for that too. There's, ones everybody knows, Bumble and Hinge and Tinder, I guess. But there's also one called Feeld, F-E-E-L-D, which has a lot more opportunity to meet people that have alternative lifestyles. And I think that's the way we meet. And, but show up authentically. There's too many people that are just looking for the likes, and they're not really taking it seriously because it's online. And I think we all want more authenticity, even on the apps.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you said, just be authentic and go into it to gather information so you don't take it so seriously. Because when you are so feeling the pressure of wanting someone to like you, a lot of times you can't be authentic because you're trying to be something that you think the person might want. So I love that, what you said. You had mentioned to me before we were on this podcast about a guy who had showed up without lube and assumed that because she was into it, her body would just cooperate. So what does that moment kind of teach us about the education that we're needing?
That we need a lot of it. I think it's having the conversation before you get into the bedroom. And I think that's very awkward, especially in midlife. I think it's a really hard thing to have. I mean, in dating. Yeah. I mean, I start because I'm a sex educator, it's much easier for me to have this conversation, but I always start, if things are starting to get intimate a little bit, or when we're making out, I say, just so you know, nothing comes off below the waist without STI testing. And that inevitably leads to more of a conversation. If somebody has herpes, they'll say, oh, well, I guess I can tell you now. I feel more comfortable to tell you that. So we have to use extra protection, or whatever your story is. And then you go get the test and you show each other the results. And then you can decide what your comfort level is with this person. And that also starts to be like, okay, well then what do you like? Or do you, I'm very vocal now about like, I like when you do that. This is one of my favorite things. But that's a hard thing to do too. So just trying to learn, if you want a really fun and connected experience with someone, you got to tell them what you like. And by the way, you need to ask what the other person likes too.
Right. And I think that when you start dating, especially because a lot of people in long-term relationships, your partner, and sometimes it might even be more difficult to bring things up if you haven't brought it up in 10, 15 years. All of a sudden out of nowhere, you're like, oh, I like when you stick this up my, you're like, what?
assume that every woman likes, I mean, I have had multiple times where the guy just like sticks it and like, whoa,
Can we talk about this first? But you can reinvent yourself when you get out of a relationship and you're ready for something new. You can say, you know what? Nobody knows me. I can be exactly who I want to be. And when I met my husband, the first thing I said to him, and he'll tell you, I said, I just want you to know, I'm going to tell you what I want, what I like, how I want it, how I like it. And you can't take it as criticism. You can only take it because I want us to have the best fucking sex life ever. And he's like, sold, and that's how it started. That's how it started, because I knew I had to keep quiet in my previous relationship where we didn't share any of that stuff. And so that's why I said, you know what, moving forward, this is what I want. And I'm telling it, putting it right out there. And he's like, sign me up. So that is so important, to just be able to feel like you could reinvent yourself and have those conversations.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, but I would caution. I think a lot of guys would be very intimidated by that, and I have seen that.
Yeah.
When they know what we do for a living, that it can be harder to date because they make these assumptions about us, both how I practice and also that that everything's so easy for me and I don't have any hangups or anything. So it can be difficult to have a conversation even for me. So,
yeah.
No,
it's true. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, it's true, and for people that are comfortable with talking about sex, sometimes you don't realize that, other people, when you say things, may look at you like, oh my God, like, I don't know what, which people do that all the time, and sometimes it's difficult. I talk about sex like I talk about my nose or my eyes,
Right.
But at the time that I had said it to him, we were already hanging out for like a month or two.
Right.
And so it was not like my first date. Hi, I'm Stacy.
But some guys might like that. Some guys are like, I love a woman who knows what she wants.
Right.
I mean, it depends. Obviously, that worked for the two.
Right. Well, that's why you got to kind of be who you are. And that's who I am. And so that's what I wanted to show up as. So speaking of expectations of what people might think or not think when they're in this stage, what do you feel like the expectations that men need to rethink when they're intimate with women in midlife? Do you think that they need to change their frame, their mindset?
I think in general, it's just really, you want to ask, you never want to assume. I think condoms and lube, you need condoms. And by the way, you do need condoms. Just because she can't get pregnant doesn't mean there aren't STIs.
Right.
Just sort of understand that when you're dating somebody in midlife, it's a different kind of sex than dating someone younger. But at the same time, she is going to know more of what she wants. She is going to be able to communicate. She's going to be a better partner than someone who's younger. I mean, I think there's a lot of guys, the guys I date know that they're dating a 60-something-year-old woman. Like they're not looking for the 30-something. Those guys aren't going to be in your purview. So, for the women listening, it doesn't mean every guy wants to date someone younger. And I suspect that they get in those relationships and then they're like, shit, I have nothing to talk to this person about because they haven't had the lived experience. Right. So, it's being curious. I'm not just, to me, like, intellect and sense of humor are just as sexy as the physical body. I think guys need to not just learn about sex. They need to learn about other things too, have things to talk about. Like I love when I'm in a relationship with somebody that somebody was just saying this to me, where the last person I interviewed, she was saying about her and her partner either read books together or they each read a book and then they talk about it. Like I love I love learning new things. I'm learning so much in this capacity as a sex educator and just learning in life. I want you to be just as curious and to teach me things as too. That's what makes relationships fun. Like you were in that marriage that was a dead bedroom and that was boring and that you barely said hello to each other in the morning. Like you want to, let's be curious about everything with each other. And that's going to bring the spark.
I think that it has a lot to do with the art of noticing. Is when you are curious, it allows you to notice things that may bring out certain things that your partner has. Or I just literally spoke all about the art of noticing this morning with one of my clients, is that it's really about on a daily basis, especially in a long-term relationship, or actually even in a dating situation, when you can notice somebody, it gives you something to talk about. You're noticing, oh, I love that outfit you're wearing. Where did you get it? Oh, you traveled here, you got it in Rome. What about Rome? I mean, it allows you to start the conversations and allows you to learn. Like you were saying, the word curiosity is probably the best thing that you could have in a relationship.
Yeah.
Is that curiosity and the art of noticing who you're with and learning something new about them on a daily basis. Yeah. I think that's so important. But I like to give everybody a little permission slip at the end of every episode. And so this week's permission slip is that you are allowed to ask for what you need in the bedroom. And you're allowed to say that, I don't know what's happening to my body right now, but I want us to figure it out together. And that's not weakness. That is the bravest, hottest thing a couple can do, because when you're doing it together, then you're able to help with that safety and communication. So Karen, thank you so much for coming on and helping us, figure out what it is to be dating in this stage of life, how to help men understand and help women help their men, and the work that you're doing with not the Men Meet Menopause, but it's called Men's
Handbook to for Women's Menopause. Something like that. There's only two courses. One is an adult sex education, and the other is helping men understand their female partner's menopause.
Got it. Well, make sure also you check her out at the podcast Taboo to Truth. I am on there as well. So I'm really glad that you're in the space with me. Let everybody know I'm going to put this up here where people can find you. And it'd also be in the show notes in case you can't actually see, but it's taboototruth.com. And then the social media is at Taboo to Truth. And let us know any other information you want to share.
Yeah, I'm also on YouTube. It's at Taboo to Truth Podcast. I do all my episodes in video. I have 2 episodes a week, 1 guest, 1 solo. And I also just want to mention, if it's okay with you, this product that I think is a great product for couples, and I'm seeing in the background, a toy that I got from them. It's a company called Aria, RYA.FYI. And I, of course, have my discount code Truth15. But what I love about it is it's a great tool for couples to try new things. Again, you each get to fill out your own questionnaire, and then they curate a box that they send to you. But it's not just the activities that they send to you. They give you, fun. The first one you get is sensation play. That's why I have that little rolly thing back there. And then they send videos with it. And there's also like a huge community of sex therapists online as part of this program. It's really wonderful. It's not terribly expensive. It's monthly. You can cancel anytime. And I really love it as a tool. And tons of couples that use it. So I just wanted to briefly mention that.
I'll get that information from you afterwards, and we'll put that in the show notes under your bio as well. So if people are interested, they can check that out. So I just wanted to say thanks again for being here. And once again, everything will be in the show notes. And I appreciate your support here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was a fun conversation.
Yes, absolutely. And so that is it for this episode of the Purple Passion Project. And we are going to go deep every single episode. Never once pretend that your sex life does not matter. Everything is going to be linked in the show notes. So you're going to grab the Pleasure Comeback and the Reigniting Passion in Long-Term Relationships at drstacyfriedman.com under the shop link for the Pleasure Playbooks. You're going to check out the Pleasure Pods that we talked about. That is feeling really, really nice on the body. And make sure you check out Karen's information as well. And then come hang with us in the Vibe Tribe and we can talk more about it. So until next time, stay curious, stay turned on, never apologize for wanting more. And remember, your sex life does not have an expiration date. Now go live it. We'll see you next time.
This has been the Purple Passion Project with host Dr. Stacy Friedman. Tune in each week as Dr. Stacy breaks down walls, busting myths, and gives you permission to want more with no shame, no filters, and definitely no small talk. Check in every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, on your favorite streaming platforms. We look forward to seeing you next time. Be sure to visit drstacyfriedman.com to learn more.